Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Daily Fix. I am your usual host and presenter, Advocate Tulo Hoyane. It was just another mind-blowing day in the Pretoria High Court yesterday. It came to a situation where Mnisi told Warrant Officer Mabasa that you are a hired gun. You are a hired gun and you are now misfiring. Now, what is a hired gun? A hired gun is an assassin. In effect, Mnisi was saying to him, you have just been brought here to falsely implicate. Accused number 3, that in fact that gold tooth that you say you spotted in your photograph, in the photograph that was displayed before court, was in fact a calculated move on your part simply to falsely implicate Mthobisi Mncube, the third accused, as the person who entered the Khumalo house wielding a gun and who eventually killed or shot Senzo MEYIWA on the 26th of October 2014. It was a very serious allegation being made by Mnisi against Mabasa. But the curious thing is Mabasa never even replied. He never denied. I had thought that in response Mabasa or the prosecution would have at least made some kind of objection to that kind of, allegation. Or for Mabasa himself to have said, I'm not a hired gun. I am assisting the court to arrive at the truth so that justice can be dispensed in this matter. So he called him a hired gun. And what were the circumstances surrounding his calling him a hired gun? This was after a heated and long dispute between Mnisi and Mabasa. When Mabasa was saying that, the photographs that were first in that memory card, I think it belonged to the first accused. The photographs in that memory card were downloaded or transferred into a USB. And a USB is something that we call a memory stick. So it was a transfer from the memory card in the phone to that memory stick. That is what Mabasa was saying he did. Now, Mnisi ended up calling him a hired gun because he said he was confusing. At some stage, he says he was confusing a memory card with a memory stick. But Mnisi said, four times I asked you, and you confirmed that, or you demonstrated an understanding that a memory card is different from a memory stick. And Mabasa replied that I probably never followed what you were saying. So it was quite a heated exchange. At some stage, the judge was even saying, if they don't trust, the evaluations of that gadget in court, when, cell phones were being circulated in court, he said they can bring their own expert. And Mnisi told the judge that, no, we don't have the resources to, secure an expert. And Judge Rata said, if you can procure a medical doctor to undertake that medical procedure on Mncube, surely whether or not he's in jail, he'll be able to do that. So that was some kind of impasse also which was not resolved. But I've always said this evidence, this evidence that is being led is unhelpful to the prosecution case based on just what Mabasa is supposed to have observed and nothing else. He's not an expert, at gold tooth identification. You know, and now there's this dispute about just what it was that he saw. But you know, the background of it all is also shocking because you know the real person who should have come before this court to render that evidence was Taba Makeleni, you know, because these photographs, I even wonder how these photographs were procured. Because if they were procured from the cell phone of accused number one, then was his consent sought? You know, how were they? Did they obtain the necessary, you know, subpoena? Were they subpoenaed? How did they come into the possession of the police? Because you remember that um, warrant officer, this warrant officer Mabasa says he was given this task by Sergeant Mukhola, that lady who said he must have a look at these pictures and see whether he cannot identify a gold tooth. You see, it was like he was led to you know to look for a gold tooth at all costs, because you were simply told you know you are dealing with this matter. Check whether you can identify a gold tooth in any of these photographs. So the gold tooth saga goes on and on and on. It's taking all sorts of dimensions. But the bottom line is that I don't think it is even worth it. It is even worth it. All that Mnisi must round up is just to, you know, go back to calling Mabasa a hired gun and then lead that expert evidence. You know, lead the evidence of the expert who examined Mutobisi Mngube to ascertain whether he ever had a gold tooth. I think this will just, you know, dispose of the matter. The matter will be done and dusted so that you can move on to other things. You remember there was that inspection in local that still has to be undertaken. You recall there's also, you know, the AVL records that, you know, we still have to be looked into. This tooth thing, I think, is being exhausted, because even if it was to be found that, you know, that picture that they're identifying there, they say it's Mutobisi Mngube's, you know, and he had a gold tooth, and where does the picture come from? You know, has it not been, you know, like Mnisi was insinuating that it could easily be manipulated or fiddled with? So this is where we find ourselves, but this is a trial and we have to follow every twist and turn, no matter how laughable or how small. So having said that, the matter is postponed to Monday, and on a Monday it will be resuming. But I think tomorrow I'll just look into, you know, this gold tooth evidence again and try and put it in perspective, right? And well, some other issues also, but largely I think I'll focus on the gold tooth. Thank you very much for watching this video, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.